You made it to level 2, deeper questions leading to deeper answers. I'm Tomas Garza, and I'm here to help you decide to transform. I'll be setting the pace for the process to support your unfolding. Learn and commit to a practice that brings simplicity and an awareness of what is ready to be released. Join me now and allow the experience of a deeper sense of love. Hello and welcome to Decide to Transform. I'm your host, Tomas Garza. And joining me today for a very special show is Deb Goldberg from Pennsylvania. Now, this is a show that I've been looking forward to for some time, and it's different than other shows that we've had recently. I'll introduce Deb here, and then we'll just start talking. This is going to be really a lot of fun, and we're talking about nothing other than being a messenger from God today on the show. And that is what Deb is, a scribe and a messenger for God. She was a traditional clinical therapist for 18 years until a spiritual awakening by Jesus transformed her and changed her path to spiritual teacher, coach, and author. She was taught God's universal love and wisdom and brings that knowledge into her work to inspire others. She's the author of a book series called A Divinely Ordered Life that was dictated by Jesus. Debbie has hosted several videocast shows on social media to help people heal, inspire hope, and connect to divine love. There's a lot to talk about in here. Deb, welcome.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here with you today and share your audience with you, bringing them some more love and light.
This is beautiful. Thank you so much. And, I've had people as guests on the show from all different walks of life and many different authors, but I have not had someone who has had messages channeled to them directly from Jesus, from God, from source energy, whatever people want to call it. So my first question, because you've had 3 books already channeled that are out and published, and that is the series A Divinely Ordered Life. When did this start, and were you surprised?
Well, meaning the channeling start for the books, that was in 2014. It was about, no, I'm sorry, 2016. So it was about a year and a half after I actually was spiritually awoken by Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I was surprised. Some part of me felt like I knew I was going to write, but I've never authored anything before. And Jesus just one day said, I want you to get your journal and your pen, and we're going to write. And I said, what are we going to write? I've never written anything before. And he said, don't worry about it. I'm going to dictate to you. And there it went.
Okay. Well, yeah, and that is an experience that maybe some listeners have had, but I'm nearly 100% sure that most have not. It's not the type of thing that regularly occurs to people, and if it is, they don't talk about it. But let's back up a little bit to the spiritual awakening. Where were you in that part of your life when that occurred?
2014, I was a therapist and I loved my work. I really enjoyed what I was doing. I felt that there probably was something more. I felt like I met all the goals I set for myself. I had a private practice, it was doing well, but I also felt like, is this it? Is this what I'm supposed to be doing? And at the same time, in my personal life, I had some conflict with some family members, and it was really tugging on my heart, and I didn't understand why I was having conflict with people I love. And for once in my life, I thought, what am I doing that's creating this conflict? Rather than saying somebody else is creating this conflict, I started to ask myself, what am I doing why am I having this experience that's heartbreaking for me? And I thought, it was probably the first time I actually did any personal development. You know, when you're a therapist, you have to do a lot of development courses each year
Hmm.
to maintain your license, but I
Right.
never did personal development. And I signed up to go to a workshop precipitated by this conflict with family members. And the workshop was done by Dr. Margaret Paul, who is awesome. She has a whole website and information called Inner Bonding, and it's really doing inner child work.
Okay.
So while I was at this workshop, they meditated. Now, I've never meditated before. Even as a therapist, I did lots of relaxation with with clients, but I never meditated. And so it was my first meditation, and it was the meditation's goal was for you to meet your guide, your spiritual guide.
Okay.
So this was really kind of me stepping into a space that I didn't really step into before, of opening myself and spiritually
Hmm.
that I'd not done before. And during this meditation, this movie starts playing in my head.
Okay.
And I didn't know it was Jesus at the time. It was a man
Okay.
looking, maybe in his 30s. He was wearing jeans and a white t-shirt. And she asked us to put ourselves in our happy place, a place that we feel that we enjoy. And for me, that would be laying in a raft in the pool, and
Okay.
or, but I was sitting. All of a sudden, this movie opens up, and I'm sitting on the side of a pool, and there's this man sitting next to me, and I didn't know who he was. And I'm saying, well, I guess this is my spiritual guide, because that's what I'm supposed to be doing here. And we just sat next to each other, and I could feel the presence of love like I had never felt before.
Okay.
And then all of a sudden, the movie started to shift. I was in this raft in the pool, and this man who was Jesus got in the water, and opened my arms up while I'm laying in this raft, and all of these wounded parts of myself started to show up in my
Hmm.
arms, like
Okay.
like younger versions of myself that
Yes.
I
Yes.
had gone through trauma as a kid. And and he took my arms and just wrapped them around. I had all of them, if you can imagine that, in around and sitting inside my arms, and it just brought tears to my eyes. It was so moving, and what I realized, what he was telling me, is that I had the power to heal myself,
Okay.
and I needed to heal myself,
Hmm.
and it just unraveled from there.
Okay. So you had the power to heal yourself. And then were you instructed as to how to do that, or did you intuitively just know? What was that like?
Well, because I was at this workshop and she was teaching a method for healing,
Okay. Ah, yeah,
and
yes.
it's working with your inner child. It's inner child work. It's
Mhm.
called inner bonding. And what she had taught is that you cannot really heal without the help of your spiritual guidance, that
Okay.
you have any meaningful healing. And so that's why she introduces the meditation, is because you need to find a spiritual guide to then help you do the healing that you need to do. And
Hmm.
so I was taught the process of inner bonding. And uh, Margaret is a PhD. She was a therapist for years. So she was coming from the same genre that I understood. And so I started to use that technique And then I actually made some changes to it and started using it with my own clients. And it was a
Yeah.
beautiful, beautiful technique to
Cool.
help people wake up and
Mm.
meet divine love in whatever form that was going to be in, and to start their healing process from a spiritual, a more divine standpoint.
Okay. Yes. And so this is something that you had been using then in your practice. And what did the healing journey look like for you? If you don't mind sharing, what were some of those wounds that were placed in your arms to heal?
Hmm. So growing up, I experienced physical and emotional abuse from my dad.
Okay.
And then
Mhm.
I went through rape with my stepfather
Oh, all
as
right.
a young teenager, and there's just a myriad of things as within my childhood that I kind of stuffed away. And even though I was a therapist, I thought that, I did a lot of journaling and writing letters, journal letters
Mhm.
to them. So I thought I had done a lot of healing. But the truth is, it was all superficial.
Okay.
It was very
Hmm.
superficial. And, you know, what I learned is that I had to go back and reopen all of those wounds and actually deal with my feelings from those time periods and how they affected my life in creating adaptations to myself, to protect myself and really shut out love. I was afraid of intimacy. There was many, many things. I had a lot of anxiety, and this was all really interesting. So once I got woken up and taught this and had Jesus by my side and God, um, because God came in too.
Hmm.
Although I know that they're both the same. What happened was I realized that I was numb for so long that I didn't know that I had so much anxiety inside of me,
Okay.
nervous energy.
Hmm.
And I worked all the time. I was a workaholic because I loved what I was doing, but it was also a good place to hide out
Sure.
and away from
Hmm.
myself and not have to deal with these things or the things
Yes.
that were presently going on in my life. And so that process of all of a sudden opening myself up and the numbness wearing off and allowing myself to feel felt like torture to me.
Oh, I can imagine. Yeah. Mhm.
Because I spent so many years trying not to feel, right? And just stuffing it and putting it behind me, and uh but it never heals when you stuff it. It's still activated
Mhm.
even though you don't realize that it's happening. So it was a painful process. I spent many nights of so I would use guided imagery as part of my meditation. And so then the same way that Jesus came to me in that meditation the first time, it became my mode of how I connected, um, and saw God, saw Jesus, saw angels, my my father, um, to do healing with my dad who's passed on.
Okay.
And I spent a lot of nights putting myself in guided imagery and basically sleeping in God and Jesus's lap because I was scared out of my mind because all these feelings started to come up at the same time.
Yeah.
Like, I was 56 years old when this happened. So I
Okay.
had, like,
Hmm.
56 years of, junk that I didn't really process, feelings.
Yeah, for sure.
It was a very, painful, um, scary. I was very scared, like, I put myself in their lap, and they held me and talked to me, and all night so I slept all night like that, like, that's the way I went to sleep. Um, there was constant, me trying to understand all these feelings that I was having because I didn't know if they were right or wrong, and Jesus would tell me, "What's wrong with your feelings? There's nothing wrong with your feelings."
Mhm. Yeah.
But I didn't trust them.
Mm, I see.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
Yeah, so I had just taken each wounded part of me and had to use this inner bonding process with God, Jesus, my higher self. I would see my higher self, um, my future self, whatever you want to call that. Um, and with each part of me, I had to reopen and confront my feelings and learn how to love myself, learn how to have self compassion, because I spent most of my life disregarding myself, disrespecting myself, not knowing how to self soothe. And this process of healing, because what you do in this healing practice is you spend time with this wounded part of yourself, going through what happened, allowing that part of yourself to tell you all the things that it remembers from that period in your life,
okay.
and not saying, "Well, you're wrong. You saw that wrong. You felt that wrong." It's just
Yeah.
it's just allowing that part of yourself to be it in the way that it felt from those experiences. And then after hearing that and doing this with loving self-love and compassion and grace for yourself, you ask your guidance. So I'd say Jesus or higher self, what is the truth here about what I'm hearing from myself? And
Okay.
then I would get a divine interpretation of what I experienced and what I was feeling.
Mm, okay.
Mhm.
So this was it's very comprehensive, and literally it sounds like it leaves no stone unturned.
Mm-mm.
Now, when this experience happened to you, uh, were you surprised that the man that showed up in jeans and a white T-shirt was Jesus? Was this something that you were open to before?
Not really.
Okay.
I'm Jewish.
Mhm.
I didn't understand I didn't understand who this guide was, but inside of me, if you wanna call it my inner child, is
Okay.
telling me, "It's Jesus. This is Jesus." And I'm like, "Why would Jesus wake me up? I don't understand. Why is Jesus my guide?" And it probably took me 2 years at least
Mhm.
to start just allowing that and not questioning it.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, it has been the most beautiful relationship
Mm.
that I have ever experienced with love. Um, and God, it's the same way, but I think it's Jesus because, you know, he's been this human, he comes in this human image, uh, that the closeness, the intimacy of both actually God and Jesus. But yeah, I took a real special liking to Jesus, and the love that cradled me. I call it spiritual reparenting,
Mm.
is
Okay.
undoing everything that I learned in my life to understand uh, from divine wisdom versus earthly wisdom.
Okay, so with spiritual reparenting, that's a term I've not heard, and this is something that you invented?
Mhm,
Okay, and it's undoing, everything in your life so that it can be divinely reinterpreted. Am I
mhm.
understanding that right? Okay.
Yeah, and that's what this process does when you have a relationship with Jesus, God, with whoever your guidance is
Mhm.
there should be some reinterpretation of understanding your experience and learning who you truly are from a divine standpoint.
Yes, yeah, yeah, that would seem like a very important component. Mhm. Yes. Now, with spiritual reparenting, so you had these profound healing and lasting healing. Well, it's a process, and it sounds like it was indeed that for you. Then, fast forward a couple of years later, Jesus appeared or spoke to you and said, "We're going to start writing." All right. Yeah. What was that like?
It was amazing.
Okay.
Um, it was I was excited about it,
Oh,
and at
good.
the same time, I thought, "I don't know what I'm doing." And I was like, "Okay, I know how to take dictation.
Yeah.
I just need to listen." He told me he did not want me to type it.
Okay.
I type faster than I write, of course. But he said, "No, I want you to write. I want you to handwrite what I'm telling you." Uh, the process took about 2 weeks for each book, and he was relaying wisdom that I had not grown into yet. So I didn't understand a lot of things
Yeah.
um, that he was teaching me that I was writing about. He also we wrote about my experiences,
Mm.
uh, and I I remember he was talking about the experience of trauma and rape, and he said, "I want you to understand this did not happen." And I said, "What do you mean it didn't happen?" I can be very resistant, and I say what I think, um, and opinionated.
Mhm.
And so it's been interesting having this relationship with God and Jesus where I'm just this what do you mean?
Yeah. Right.
Understand what you're telling me here. And that was a huge thing. It was a huge understanding for me that I had to grow into, that our life is a dream, it's an illusion.
Mhm.
And this story was part of my dream, my storyline for Deb. And he said, this didn't happen. You dream. It's like a dream. You dream that it happened. But I
Mhm.
promise you, you were not hurt. This did not happen. And, every part of my physical being said, Jesus, you don't know what you're talking about. I experienced this.
Yeah.
I experienced this. I still have body memories of trauma. And he
Mhm.
says, no, it's part of your story. It's not real. And that was a lot for me to digest. And it took me a long time to accept that information as truth
Mhm. Sure.
and so now it's integrated as truth, but at the
Mhm.
time it took me quite a while. It was very tiring
Okay.
to listen to dictation for an
Mm.
hour and a half to 2 hours every day.
Mhm.
It would be draining to me. I felt like I was drained because I guess the terminology I understood was I didn't know how to hold that much light at such a long time.
Okay.
Because usually we get glimpses of things and it's
Yes.
it's it's fleeting, but to sit for an hour and a half or 2 hours and take straight dictation, I would find myself falling asleep while he was talking.
Hmm.
That I was just maybe it was a coping mechanism or a part of me that couldn't take it in and didn't want to hear it all. You know what I mean? I'm not sure, but it was so much wisdom, fruit that I didn't understand, and it was very tiring.
Mm. Okay. Now, how long did this go on? For an hour and a half to 2 hours a day?
Well, it was 6 weeks to get 3
6 weeks.
books,
Okay.
and so it was 2 weeks for each one. Uh, And then after that one, God introduced me to Archangel Gabriel, and Jesus did, and he said he's going to give you another book. So right after those 3, I had
Okay.
another 2 weeks of a book that I'm actually finally getting to edit right now.
Okay.
So all my books have all been given to me, dictated, and I just haven't put out 3 and a half of them yet.
Okay. So there are more. There
Mhm,
is the series of three, A Divinely
mhm,
Ordered Life, and there is the book dictated by Archangel Gabriel, and there are yet more then.
mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, it started out with that first book series. It is the I have a first book series called Creating a Life Worth Living,
Okay.
and that was basically the books that Jesus dictated me during those 6 weeks, and I put them out. I published them under Creating a Life Worth Living. What I realized, and then right after that, I had hired a branding specialist and somebody who was gonna publish. She wanted to republish the books that I just put out.
Okay.
And what I realized was that I did not really put myself into those books because I was scared. I was like I was still scared. I'm like, "Jesus is talking to me, and I'm gonna put these books out, and people are gonna think I'm nuts."
Okay. Yeah.
They're not gonna understand that I'm hearing Jesus and God talk to me. And, so I decided that I was going to put out a second version of those books and intertwine my spiritual awakening in with the original set text from the books of the other, and that became A Divinely Ordered Life.
Okay. Well, so and it was a combination of the two. So how did you work with what seems to me would be a very natural thought of people are going to think that I'm nuts? How did you work with that?
Well, it's funny when you become awoke to the fact that there's something more going on here than what you think.
Yeah.
And you not only are you becoming more aware of the thoughts and feelings that you have, but it's the faulty beliefs that you have that I would say comes from ego. That's the way that Jesus had taught to me. Um,
Yeah.
and I call these myths because we can't really understand our experience, the mystery, it's just too expansive, and so we have these myths to understand our experience, and so you start to understand, I have all of these crazy beliefs, and where did they come from? And fears that come out of nowhere, so, um, I think, while I was putting these books out, all of that stuff that was hanging out, the fears, started to surface, of being, um, what is the word? Like you're not who you say you are.
Hmm.
Like you're a fraud.
A fraud. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So I felt like a fraud, that people are gonna think I'm a fraud, that I'm making this stuff up, and no, who's gonna listen to me, and, why would anybody wanna listen to me? I have, you know, what kinda clout do I have? What kind of credential that people would say, "Oh, well, maybe she did have this experience." And it was because I was not understanding my own spiritual awakening experience, because everything that you perceive or think, you're getting an external reaction to that. You're getting, it's saying, oh, you get an external mirror of your own internal dynamic.
Hmm.
So here comes this fraud, and then, you know, I think I was working with a client one day, and I had said, "Well, God speaks to me," and he said, "Well, who the hell are you?"
All right.
So then I started, to have the experiences of this internal dynamic, this belief that I had,
Okay.
um, which all of these fears and misunderstandings, misbeliefs that you have, everything starts to come up inside of you, which is part of the process of healing, of knowing that there is much more to you than what you think.
Yes. Yeah, a lot more. Okay. Yeah, this is it's so interesting because there are so many people out there that are open to the idea of channeled material and so many more who are not.
Mhm.
Uh, yes, and the question that the gentleman asked you, well, who the hell are you? Very, very interesting. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. And I said, well, I'm no different than you are. If you want to hear God, you can. There's nothing special about me. There's nothing special about anyone. We all
Yeah.
have the ability to hear. And,
Mhm.
of course, as I've grown in my spiritual practice and understanding more through the wisdom that, I get taught, is that we're just consciousness, and I
Okay.
call that God.
Mhm.
I call it divine love. It's all one in the same. And so if you are consciousness, you are not separated from consciousness itself, which is, like I said, God. It's creation. It's
Yeah.
it's unlimited everything. It's unlimited creativity, and
Mhm.
I feel like this is what we are. We're our own creation, experiencing our own creation of ourself. So
Mhm.
to not be able to hear consciousness, you don't really have the understanding yet of what you are. And
Okay.
so I don't even call it channeling anymore. It's hard to come up with a different word other than channeling. I'm just
Yeah.
hearing my own conscious mind.
Okay. Mhm.
Uh, and for some reason, I've asked Jesus, why are you and God and John the Baptist and some other um, the archangels, why am I hearing you? Like, over some people hear
Yeah.
Buddha, some
Yes.
people just talk to light, some
Mhm.
people, call it chi, prana,
Mhm.
all kinds of things,
Yeah.
source.
Sure.
Why are you why are you part of my life here? Why are you part of my story? And he told me that this is just part of my story, my my life story here, and that he tried to give me some background, that I walked with him as a disciple when he did,
Okay.
and that each time um, that I have another life, which is also, I know, part of the dream story. It's not true. Um, that each time my purpose is to believe in myself and to
Okay.
heal other people from their suffering.
Mhm.
So this is a story that was created for me for this life of,
Okay.
just like everybody else has their own individual story and purpose of what they're to bring, what
Mhm.
gifts they are to bring to this world.
Yes. Yeah, everyone's got a part, a role to play. Now, I'm gonna back up for a moment here. You mentioned a few minutes ago that you experienced some resistance or some initial shock, maybe, to the idea that this was all actually a dream and is, in fact, all a dream, and traumatic things did not actually happen to you. So, was that a tremendous shock at first?
Very much.
Okay,
It was
and
very much, and I just was not hearing it. I was not
ah,
having it. Like,
okay,
I didn't even wanna take that in, because I was allowing my body and my memory to tell me what truth was, because I was not willing to open to that
yeah,
there might be something more than just my body and the truth,
okay,
that the body's not real either. So He's, and I know that we're experiencing things this way because it's meant to be experienced. We're supposed to be having a physical experience. It's all part of what makes our life appear real.
Right.
But I know when Jesus explained that to me, I mean, he was telling me it was all a dream, and I was like, "Okay, all right, I'll go for that." But when it came to telling me that what happened to me was not was just a dream too,
Hmm.
that's where I drew the line.
Okay. Yeah.
I was like, I don't believe that. How can that be true when I
Mm.
have a body that tells me something different?
Okay. And then what was the response?
He's so gentle and
Mm.
so loving
Yeah.
that, when you're being, because I this is like a coaching, it's a spiritual reparenting. Okay, I'm teaching you a new concept that you are ready for, but you are being, you're making a stance, or you're being stubborn and resistant.
Mm.
But it's okay, because you are going to grow into this when you're ready to.
Okay. Yes. Yeah.
There's no force feeding.
Mhm.
There's no, there's no, and this is a great analogy. One of my meditations, and this is an analogy for how I was growing and how I was to teach
Okay.
other
Mhm.
people, because when I
Yeah.
first woke up and had all of this happen and I had all this wisdom pouring through me, I was like, I got to tell everybody. Everybody needs to know this. I have to tell everyone that life's not real, and that you're healed and there's nothing wrong with you and you're love, and we need not to suffer anymore. And I was telling people too much. They could not absorb, and then they would shut down. So one of my meditations, and this was probably, oh, I don't know, maybe 3 years ago, I was sitting at a kitchen table with Jesus. And like I said, these are all movies. They just start playing. They just start to happen. And
Mhm.
there's a pie sitting on the table. There's an apple pie. And he says, cut me a slice and serve it to me. And I said, okay. So I cut a slice and I serve him it.
Okay.
And he picks a little forkful up of the little slice. And he says, that we need that you cannot absorb the whole pie. You can't eat the whole pie. It's too much. It's
Yeah.
laden with so much fruit, and it's so heavy, meaning expansive, right? That
Yes. Hmm.
that you can only take a forkful, a piece at a time. And he said, you want to leave people wanting to come back for another slice of pie,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
because they can't digest it. It's too much. And so this is the way he would teach me about, okay, this is the way that I can only digest a little tiny piece at a time that he's telling me. And when I'm teaching, I have to keep that in mind, that I can't go blah. I give them A to
Yes.
Z when I couldn't even take in A to Z. I was having trouble with A, and then I had to go to A plus, and then a B, you know. Um, and so it was a real understanding of, you can't force yourself. You can't force yourself to take in more than what you're ready to in
Yeah.
each moment.
Right. Yes. And as a teacher myself, I can relate to wanting to convey a lot of information
Mhm,
just because.
mhm.
So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, that's a really that is a very gentle teaching. And if you love apple pie,
Mhm,
um, yeah, even more of an impactful teaching, I guess.
mhm,
Yes. Yeah. So then it sounds like then this was a process, a moment
mhm.
at a time, a step at a time. And now, what are you doing now these days? You've published the first three of these books. A Divinely Ordered Life is out now, and people can purchase these. And are you still in practice as a therapist?
Not as a therapist. I retired my license.
Okay.
Um, I consider my I consider myself a divine therapist,
All right.
because
Yeah.
I'm using I'm allowing God and Jesus to bring forth whatever needs to come forth as I help each person, um, or a coach or spiritual teacher. So I've done some teaching, I've had some clients, but I have been mostly working on books, and I have to tell you that I have a plethora
Mhm.
of um, poetry,
Okay.
quotes.
Oh,
That's why I
yeah.
make memes out of them. Quotes, songs, children's stories.
Mhm.
And so I have spent so much of my time absorbing and getting onto paper all of these different things that I have been given that eventually, hopefully, I can get more of them out. But I still work with people. I have not I haven't put myself like, advertised myself a lot, but I am there, to, teach. I've done some workshops
Okay.
last year, done a handful of those, and I
Mhm.
used to have a show on
Yes.
Enlightened World Network, um, Divine Relationship Recovery,
Mhm.
and I used to have a podcast on Angel Heart Radio. So, I was constantly teaching in those forms.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yes. Well, yeah, and if you haven't put yourself out and advertised too much, you get the opportunity to do that right now, of
Mhm.
course. So now, if people were to want to find out more information about you, what's the best place for them to go?
Probably my website,
Okay.
and it's www.debbieNgoldberg.com.
Okay.
So that's a place where people can read my blogs, they can find my books there, they can find quotes, inspiration, they can find out how to reach me, to contact me, um, and understand the work that I do. When I do work with people, is trying to heal all the wounds that they've experienced and also heal through a divine lens.
Yes. Okay.
Mhm. So they're learning spiritual concepts at the same time.
Okay. Yeah, wonderful. And then this is Debbie N. Goldberg.com. Now, can people also purchase copies of your books on this site?
You can, and we'll send you to Amazon.
Okay.
So
Mhm.
there's a link I also have to Amazon where you can see the books either in paperback or in an ebook. They're, wonderful. I think they're wonderful. I have to keep going back and reading them myself
Okay.
because there were so many lessons in them, and I put a lot of my journal entries with God, from God and Jesus and John the Baptist, so you could really get a feeling of how informal these, and intimate these relationships are and how loving they are
Mhm.
and how you get nurtured into understanding who you were created to be and what you
Mhm.
are.
Yes. And these three, A Divinely Ordered Life is the name of the series. These are already out. Now, you did mention here on the show a fourth, which has been sent and given to you by Archangel Gabriel. So,
Mhm.
is there a working title of that book?
Yes, it's called Intuition and it's the voice of God.
Okay.
And so right behind it, I have a couple more, and it will be the next one will be about the illusion of duality, and the next one after that is the gospel of Jesus.
Okay. Ah, fantastic. So there are a total of six so far right now.
Yeah, there's
Mm.
actually also the three from the, what I look at it is the first three, the um, Creating a Life Worth Living is like a book for, they're a book series for beginners who are just kind of tippy toeing into
Oh, good. Okay.
spirituality. And so A
Yeah.
Divinely Ordered Life is more of a series for people that are more advanced.
Mhm. Okay.
So there's those two sets, and they'll hopefully get the other three books out this year.
Oh, love it. Okay. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, I think this is a really important point that you just made is that there is an entire series for people that are just new to everything. Okay. Yeah. That's wonderful. We're reaching even more people that way.
Mm-hmm.
So this is great. Okay. Well then, so Deb, what would you say before we wrap up here? I'm curious, what would you say to someone who is just brand new? They're just getting interested in spirituality. What would you say to these folks?
I would say that what's most important is to listen within and give yourself quiet time,
Okay.
because we do a lot of searching outside of ourselves, and we can read all kinds of things, and learn. I look at it this way: everybody has their own truth. You were sent here. You are here with your own truth,
Mhm.
and so what you need to find is your truth. Now, when we read other people's works, it opens us up some more, but it's easy to get, um, you get so much information, you get into information overload.
Yes. Oh yeah.
And so what's most important is developing your own relationship with whatever you call God, consciousness, or divine love, or source, or whatever you're calling that, is your higher self, you know,
Mhm.
the wisdom that runs through you, that relationship is more important than learning anything outside of you.
Okay. Yeah.
And that comes from developing either a meditation practice, and that could be all different types of things of how people meditate, whether it's, you know, eh, listening to music, being quiet, going out for a walk in nature, however you feel more connected to your inner being.
Okay. Yeah, and there are so many different ways. So spiritual practice looks differently, literally for everyone. Okay, so I
Mhm.
do have one final question. Then, what would you say to the people that are familiar with spirituality and they might be looking at starting off with a divinely ordered life? Yeah, suggestions for those folks.
Sure. I would say that it's allowing yourself to be open, that we each are having our own um, story unfold.
Mhm, mhm.
And sometimes, it's we say, "Oh, that can't be," or or people will say, "Well, how do you do that?" Because I don't hear God. You know, People that have been meditating and seeking God for so very long, or to understand the mystery of life. And so you don't compare yourself to anyone else. My story is just there to help people know what is within them.
Okay. Mhm.
And I'm always redirecting you to go inside, because
Yeah.
you have all the answers inside of
Mhm.
yourself, and you have a divine curriculum, and your guidance needs to teach you that curriculum.
Yes. Yeah, whatever that looks like.
Uh-huh.
And happily, in the 21st century, we have literally every spiritual tradition that's ever existed at our fingertips.
Mhm.
So this is
Right,
good. A good
right.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Mhm.
I think what's most important, and every day I get told, "I just want you to be happy." Every day, because your happiness is what creates all the beauty that you want around you.
Okay. Yeah. Yes.
Mhm.
Mhm. Yeah, that really is that really is it. So yes, what I would say is I completely agree with that. Whatever makes people happy, legitimately happy,
Mhm.
yeah, yeah, is really wonderful. Okay, well, Deb, I've learned so much, and I am looking forward to all of the books, and I know that the listeners are too. And again, listeners, you can talk to Deb directly. Reach her at her own website here, DebbieNGoldberg.com. Debbie, this has been such a pleasure today. I've really enjoyed this conversation. Thank you for joining me here today.
Oh my goodness, thank you for inviting me. It was a joy to be here with you and to talk about love.
Yeah, since that is ultimately all there
Mhm,
is love. Just that. So,
mhm.
yes, and thank you all for tuning in. This has been a very special guest, Deb Goldberg, here on Decide to Transform. Everyone have a great day, and thank you so much for tuning in here. We'll talk to you all again next time.